this computer. All right, so we should now be recording. Welcome to today's library webinar. This session will be recorded for, close this, posterity and for me to cringe at later, I think. In this session, we're going to be doing an overview on ebooks, specifically where to search for titles, how to navigate and use our two main ebook platforms, which are EBSCOhost and ProQuest eBook Central. We'll talk a little bit about ebook licensing options so you can be aware of best practices for sharing ebooks with your students. And we'll also show you some of the various ways that our ebooks can be downloaded or accessed online. Kate Dorsky, our archivist, is my partner in crime today for this webinar. She's going to drop these slides into the chat so y'all can follow up on any links afterwards. And if you have any questions, you can either ask me directly or drop them into the chat. Kate will be monitoring that today. I was going to do this section, let me see this, on the terms again, but I think Susan and Clint, you've both been in a session with us before, so these are old news. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that section. I'll just remind you that it's important to make sure that this proxy link is included in any ebook links that you're dropping into Canvas. Otherwise, when a student tries to get in, if they're off campus, they're going to be rejected, basically. So for their ease of mind, for their ease of cognitive load, it's a good idea to make sure that our proxies are set up. And another thing I wanted to point out that I think we haven't totally mentioned is that sometimes this proxy link looks different. So this top one is Alexander Street. So it's that perfect proxy link followed directly by that URL. But sometimes it looks weird. So this is the Drama Online proxy link where it's just proxy 123 in there. So it can look differently. Just look for that proxy 123. And if that's in there, then you're good to go for sharing a link with your students. Ooh, and I also want to point out that this is our proxy prefix generator. So this link is in the slides that I sent to you. If you click that, it might be something that you want to bookmark. All you have to do is copy and paste whatever URL you want to make sure is properly proxied, hit create link, and then it'll create it for you. We'll use this a little bit later. I'll show you how to make sure your ebook.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
Awesome.
So you don't have to like find the link. I use it too. It's the easiest way to do it. All right, so we have a few different options for ways to navigate to ebooks in our collection. And I'm going to talk you through some of them. The first is that we can start from our library homepage. As you know, you can just Google library UNCSA, and that'll take you to our homepage. And I'm going to show you where to find ebooks in our A to Z list of databases. So I'm going to click on this databases link under the main search bar on our homepage. And as you probably know, you can search by letter within a database. You can search by title. You can search by subject. But under all database types, this is where you can search specifically for ebook databases that we have available to us. So Alexander Street Press has ebook content for dance, drama, film, and music. Credo Reference is really useful. It has a lot of great encyclopedia and reference content for humanities, social sciences, and technology. Credo is really useful, especially for like first-year students if you want them to find credible background information on a play or a time period. Drama Online has lots of scripts, which are technically ebooks, but they live in a particular Drama Online interface. So there's lots of ebook databases that we have available through the library. The two we're going to talk about today are eBook Central, which includes all of our ProQuest ebooks, and eBooks on EBSCO and these are the two we're focusing on. Sorry, my laptop fan is starting, so I hope that's not loud. These are the two that we're going to focus on today because they're where most of our eBooks live, and also if you request titles for us to add to the library, these are probably the two portals where we will add them. So from this A to Z page, you can click on the individual links. It'll pull up, for example, ProQuest eBook Central, and you can search directly in here by topic or by title. But what is maybe annoying is that if you wanted to do a global warming search for all of our eBooks on that topic, you'd have to, from this interface, click on each individual database and do the same search. So I want to point to one easy search tool that the library has back on our main homepage. So I can get back to the main page by just clicking on that Library and Learning Commons link. This is our discovery interface tool. So this is really useful because it can search across all of those different databases at once. So you don't have to open individual links and do multiple searches. It'll just do it all at once here. Currently, this searches across many of our databases, but not all of the content inside of them. We are currently working to migrate to a new library-wide system called Alma and Primo, which we will launch in December, that will make all of this much easier. But for now, know that this big search bar on the library homepage is very useful for searching across many of our things at once, if not all of them. So I'm gonna put my search topic in there and hit enter. And this is our discovery interface. So immediately you get little previews of the content that comes up. I can see that there are lots of journal articles. This one is a Mayo Clinic proceeding by someone named Emily Carr. So I did this Emily Carr search because maybe I'm researching the Canadian artists. So this is very irrelevant to what my search is. And as you can see up here, I have almost 90,000 results, which is way too much to scroll through. So I can use this left-hand sidebar to really narrow down to the things that I'm actually interested in. So we have, you can refine your search by only scholarly and peer review content. That's good if you're, if you want your students to do a proper scholarly research paper or something. Content type, publication date. So I can, if I want only things that have been published since the year 2002, I can just click and drag and it'll update the results for me. I can also choose specific subjects and disciplines. So I'm going to limit to visual arts here because I want it about the artist. So now I'm down to 500 results, and these are actually about the artist Emily Carr rather than whoever that Mayo Clinic doctor was who published some sort of disease proceeding. So now our content is actually relevant to the topic that I'm trying to research. And in this content type on the left-hand side, today we're talking about eBooks specifically. So I can limit just to results of eBooks. In each of these, you get a little preview of the book cover, a brief description, year of publication. You can hover over this preview button, and that gives you a little bit more information like publisher and some subject lines. But if you want to go into the database itself to view the ebook, you just click this full text online and you're taken into the ebook. Currently not available. I think I might accidentally have checked that one out myself while prepping for this. So I'm going to go here. So this is the ebook interface for ProQuest eBook Central. You can see that up here in the upper left. We have a preview graphic of the book cover, the title, the author. On the right-hand side, we have some metadata. So again, publication dates, recommendations that go along with this title. Sometimes there's an about the author section over here, or any awards or lists that the title is a part of. This tag section can be really useful, especially if you have your students like exploring a topic. So if I clicked, it has tags basically relevant to this research topic and the book itself. So if I click First Nations, because Emily Carr, as an artist, did a lot of portraiture of First Nations in the Vancouver area, I'm taken to a very easily browsable list of other content area that we have ebooks to within ProQuest Central. So I can just click any of these. I do check availability, and it'll take me to that title as well. So it's just something to keep in mind, because one thing that's not great about searching ebooks is that they're not browsable easily the way that print books are, but that's one way to manage that. I want to point out here under availability, there's some important info. So here it says that your institution has unlimited access to this book, which means that there is no limit on the number of users who can simultaneously access and read this book at once. For other titles, it could say here that there's a one user license, which means that only one person can access the ebook at a time, similar to if it were a physical book and there was only one book they had to share. It might be 3 user access, which means 3 people can look at it at once. And you might also see here, it just says your institution has multiple copies of this ebook, which means that we have something called nonlinear access, which isn't important for you to remember, but it's just another type of access level that we can provide through the library. In an ideal world, we would just get unlimited access licensing for all of our ebooks, but that's the most expensive option, sometimes by a very significant margin. And often unlimited access is not available as a licensing option, depending on the title and depending on the publisher. Especially for newer titles, if they are available to us as an ebook, there's often only a 1 user license, and that can be a steep price. I'll note here too that a lot of brand new books, a lot of older books, titles often before like 2005 even, and a lot of textbooks from like Pearson and McGraw-Hill are just straight up not available to us in any sort of digital fashion. And that's the textbook part has to do with publishers setting up their marketing and their profit plan on marketing directly to students and having students purchase each textbook every year rather than making access available to libraries, which is more affordable for the students, and that's just not how they do business, which is unfortunate for us. But a lot of textbooks are not available digitally via the library. I often also get emails with requests for an ebook and a link to a Kindle ebook on Amazon. But just because it's available for Kindle, again, doesn't mean that it's available for us. There's some proprietary licensing there between the publisher and Amazon, making that title available for purchase for personal use by an individual person, but licensing to a lender like a library is very different. So that was a lot. I say all of that about user limits only because if you're requesting an ebook that you want your class to use as a textbook or use for required reading, please mention that when you contact us, because then we can make the best decision for the specific access needs of your class. Ideally, if it's a textbook, we'll get unlimited access. If that's not available, sometimes we can purchase multiple single-use books, which gives us like multiple copies to use. Just let us know and we'll do our best to make sure that all of your students will be able to access it. So I'll come back to this availability section, but also below here, there's a description of the book and a table of contents that's interactive. So you can click into any of these sections. If you assign chapter 4 to your students, they can just scroll down, click on this link here and be taken into chapter 4 of the book. There are a few options for accessing the title. So there are these options to read online, which means that it opens the ebook into an e-reader in your browser. Let me expand this a little bit. So I'll show you the options in here. Right away, we have a table of contents, again, here on the side, which, like I said, you can just click to navigate through the book, scroll through. You have, this is an annotation section. There are options to add bookmarks inside of the ebook or to highlight certain sections in a certain color or add a little note. Click the wrong one. Add a note. And that's where this appears over here on the left so that you can come back to things. One issue here is that currently these are not sticky to an account. So we don't require, in order to get into ProQuest eBook Central, that you have an account with ProQuest because we just want it to be as easy as possible to get into the ebook. But because of that, these aren't going to stay. So if you put in a ton of highlights, if you put in notes, and you come back to this ebook later, they're not going to be there anymore. So I would recommend just avoiding that whole annotation and the options for highlighting. If you want to highlight, I would suggest downloading to PDF and then doing that content. One very nice thing about ebooks is that they are completely searchable, which is really great for researching. So if I'm researching Emily Carr and I want to see what interactions she has listed in here with the artist Lauren Harris, who was also a Canadian artist, I can just search Lauren and I'll scroll down. It shows all of the results by chapter. So where there's little purple marks, that shows me that my search word, which is Lauren, appears in that chapter. I can hit this down arrow and I can browse the specific instances, which are highlighted here in purple, also where his name comes up. So that's one. In general, I'm definitely a physical book person, but this is something that's way easier to do on an ebook than with a physical book, where you would have to hope that the appendix or index is really well done and scroll and page around until you found something. So the search function is really useful. And then at the top, there's this book details button where we have this section on online allowances. So this is something that varies from publisher to publisher and varies from title to title. So there are limits on how much of the content you can copy and paste from this e-reader. And there are limits on how many pages you can print at any given time. This is because of DRM, which stands for Digital Rights Management. Basically, the publisher is just trying to control the use of the books and limit it as much as possible. Again, to help their profit margin and make us buy higher access levels or multiple copies of books. So these are limits. If you go up here to this top menu, this is where you can do things like download pages of the book to PDF. So if you hover over any of these, it'll come up with a description. This is a print to PDF option. I click that and I see that I have these maximum 28 pages. 28 pages actually is like quite a tight limit. Usually this is more around like 100 or 150. So like if you really wanted a book fully downloaded to PDF, what you could do is, if it was like 100 pages, you could download from 1 to 100. Click continue to download that. I'll do a few pages here so I don't limit that. And then that limit refreshes after, and it varies again, publisher to publisher and ebook to ebook, but within like a day. So you could close out of that browser, come back tomorrow, and you'd have another 100-page limit. So if you really wanted the full ebook, you could download pages 1 to 100 today, come back tomorrow, download pages 101 to 200, which is, not ideal. And I do have a workaround or a process for doing that. So if you do want a full PDF to share with your students instead of sending them a link to the ebook, let me know and I can help you with that. Other options up here are this full download, and that link is over here as well. That is so that you can download the ebook in full to either your computer or your tablet or your phone. And this is their way of, again, of controlling access. So there's a process you'll go through. If you're on your iPad coming from the site, you'll click iOS. If you're on a general tablet or an Android, you'll click that. I'm just going to show you what it's like to download to your actual laptop. In order to download it to another device, you need to get access to Adobe Digital Editions, which is a free software, but you do need an Adobe ID in order to download it to your computer. And one thing I will note here is it's fine. I didn't have any issues using my UNCSA Adobe ID. If you have Creative Cloud for campus, that'll work just fine for your laptop download. But if you are downloading to a tablet or your phone, I don't understand why it happens, but it will complicate it if you try to use your Creative Cloud Adobe ID login. So I would suggest, if you do want to download it to your tablet or phone, create a different free Adobe ID, maybe with your personal Gmail or another email account, just so you don't have any issues with downloading. So I've already downloaded Adobe Digital Editions, so I'm going to click done with this step. I choose how long I want this title to be downloaded to my machine. Because this is an unlimited access title, you can choose up to a full year to keep it on your machine. I'm going to go with just 1 day because I'm demonstrating this. You'll have options sometimes, but not always, with ebooks to choose between PDF and EPUB. So a PDF download will keep the pages basically intact, like you would be viewing it in Adobe Reader as a PDF. So you slide from page to page. An EPUB is a file format specific to ebooks that basically expands and contracts in sort of a continuous scroll view in the ebook reader. So I'll show you what that is. I'll click download your book. A file comes up, you can just click that and it'll automatically open for you. This is Adobe Digital Editions. So you can see I downloaded the EPUB rather than the PDF. So you can see how all of these pages just sort of expand and contract in more of a raw text format than they would if it were actually a PDF download. Then you would see just page to page, very similar to what you see in Adobe Reader. Adobe Digital Editions basically exists to make sure that your title, you no longer have access to your titles once your loan has expired. So you can see I have a bunch of books in here that have since expired, or I have 21 hours left, or I have 12 days left. This is just the ebook publisher's way of making sure that access is limited and that we're giving out these ebooks as loans rather than, just unlimited download. Does that make sense? Do I have any questions? I'm gonna pause for a second here. Let me stop sharing my screen so I can see y'all. Any questions? Not yet. Okay, cool. All right. Can you see my screen again? One additional question that I often get from faculty is whether it's better to share a link directly to the book with students, or if it's better to send them the PDF. And there's a few factors there. If we have a one user limit on an ebook, then it's definitely a better idea for you to download the PDF and upload that to Canvas, because then they won't be fighting each other for access to the book, especially if it's a required reading. Another thing that's useful, I guess, on the side of linking rather than sharing a PDF, is that you can link directly to different pages and different chapters. So I'm going to go over here to the table of contents session. If I want my students to read chapter 5, then if I click this link button here at the start of chapter 5, it's going to automatically, you can see at this end here, give us a page starter of page 48. So when students click on this link, they'll be taken directly to the chapter that they're supposed to read for that week or that unit. Notice here that there is no Proxy 123 on here at all. So eBook Central, though it's a pretty good ebook platform, does not automatically set up proxy access for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this link, Command C. I'm going to go over here to this proxy prefix generator. I'm just going to paste that into our source URL box here, hit create link, and here is the full proxy link. So you see that proxy 123, and this is the link that you want to copy and paste into your Canvas page or share with students. This will make sure that whether they are off campus or on campus, either way, they'll just be directed right on through into the resource without being rejected or having to authenticate in any other way. All right, so that is ProQuest eBook Central. I think the other method that I wanted to show you about ways to access ebooks through the library is via our classic catalog. So this is where our classic catalog is where we host all of our physical books as well as our ebook collections. So all of our book collections and print periodicals are in here. But I'll show you an example. So color theory for the makeup artist. When I'm searching for a specific title in the catalog, it does this really useful thing where I can see all at once that we have 2 physical copies of color theory for the makeup artist. One is LibUse only, which means it's always going to be available basically on reserve in the library. That one can't be checked out. This one says available, so there's a physical copy that can be checked out if students want to take this book home. And then we have our online version. So if students are off campus or in the studio or don't want to walk across campus to the library, they can always just access the ebook this way. So I'm going to click on that result and I'm going to click ebook here under this online box. And this is going to take us into EBSCO So this is our other main ebook hosting platform. You can tell right away that it looks a little bit different from ProQuest eBook Central. I do think it is a little bit less user-friendly than ProQuest's version, but it still has all of the function that we need. So you'll scroll down, there's a little bit of metadata, there's a description, some subjects. Here we have publisher and permissions, as well as our user access levels. So this one you can copy and paste or save to PDF up to 60 pages at once, and we have 3 copies available rather than just one. It's not an unlimited access title. We can scroll down again and dig into the table of contents to find certain sections. And I can, if I click directly here, it would take me into the ebook just opening that in a new tab so I can show you as it's loading here. So this is nice. They don't all do this, but some of the ebooks still have normal page numbering available on here. And this is, you might find a difference between certain ebooks and print versions that a lot of the layout is lost. But in certain titles, especially if there's a lot of images, if it's something where the layout really adds a lot to you know, the actual navigation and understanding of the text, then they usually do a good job about making sure that it's properly transferred into the ebook version. So you can still have page numbers here, which means you can still cite pages if you want them to look into page 34, section on pigments. Up along this top row, we have some of our same options for printing pages. When I click print pages, that means print pages to PDF. Again, I see my limit is 60. I can choose the current page and the next 60 pages, click print PDF, and it'll again pull it up as a PDF version for me that I can save on my computer, upload to Canvas, and have perpetual access to that. Or I can, if I go back to the site here, once that Zoom thing clears for me. There we go. Then I can also download PDF or EPUB versions of the full text. Again, this will download to Adobe Digital Edition. So if I do the PDF version this time, oh, just kidding. Oh, maybe this version is this not gonna, no. Okay, so this title does not have any sort of download full text at all, which is interesting. Again, as I said, you will find weird idiosyncrasies because title to title and publisher to publisher, these are all very different. So I guess in this example, I would definitely either download the whole thing as PDF, 60 pages at a time, or I would email my librarian, Kim, and she would do all of that work for me. So I could just upload the PDF to Canvas, or you could use this permalink button. And notice right away that you see Proxy 123 in this link. That means that it's ready to go, and you can just grab this link directly and share that in Canvas as your option as well. I think if there were other things I wanted to tell you about EBSCO. Of course, it's not gonna. Oh, right-hand side here, you can also grab the permalink here. It has all of these extra tools, save, cite, export. These all have to do with the file itself. So if I click cite, you can choose APA and grab the record. If you click export, you're really just going to be exporting the record. If you click email, you're going to be emailing a link, but also the citation, essentially. So these don't refer to the actual content within the book. They refer to the information about the book, the metadata, the citation, that type of thing. But this permalink will take the students directly to this page where they can choose PDF or EPUB themselves. Any questions about EBSCO? Let me see. As you can see, I have some slides in here about licensing options and about downloading ebooks, so you can consult those.
I have kind of a big overarching question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are some of the pros and cons of each one of these? And what would you actually recommend as kind of the more easy to accomplish?
I think that Yeah, so there's like a few aspects of that. I think eBook Central is definitely, if we're talking about an actual interface to use, that's more user friendly. There are some, with eBooks, sometimes we can choose which interface and which platform we buy it from, but sometimes we can't. So usually if there's an option, I'll lean towards ProQuest eBook Central. As far as format, it really, like whether to share a link or whether to share a PDF. You know, like I said, it really depends on your class. If there's only a single one user license available for a title and you have 30 students in your class, then a PDF is a better way to ensure that they'll be able to access the content.
Is there any information lost between the two formats, like searchability or metadata that changes for a PDF versus the EPUB that might be relevant?
Yeah. So PDF is a little bit easier if like citations are important to you and page numbers are important, because the EPUB is like an open source format that really varies. And sometimes the formatting, depending on the book design and layout, can get really strange looking in an EPUB format. So PDF can be like, especially if it's a very visual book, I would lean towards PDF. Searchability, I do think it's easiest inside of eBook Central, but as you saw, EBSCOhost, that second platform, is not as easy to navigate. It's a little bit old school. And I found that with students, if they try to find something once and it doesn't work, they're pretty quick to give up.
Right. You get one shot.
Exactly. So, I mean, in that regard, if you download the PDF, that's searchable in Adobe Reader the same way any PDF is, so they could still have that function, but it loses the interactivity of like being able to click. Most of the time, it loses the interactivity of being able to click really quickly between chapters or the table of contents and using that as a navigation function.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, so there's benefits to each. And it really depends on the individual ebook, what the publisher has allowed to be transferred into the ebook version, and what your students' needs are. I will say that textbooks, we are trying really hard to get all of the textbooks that are available digitally as ebooks. So in the past week, I think on Thursday, I got the full textbook list from Katie Leinert at the bookstore, and I went through and am working on getting digital access to all of the textbooks that have been listed there that are available. But if you, as many faculty do, don't put your required reading onto that bookstore list, you can just send me the titles and we'll do our best essentially to either get digital access to an ebook or physical access. So I think we're still going to be purchasing print copies of textbooks for the fall, but our reserve system might look a little different. Normally we do like a 2-hour reserve or a 24-hour reserve. But we will be needing to like quarantine physical books when they're returned to the library currently. So if it's a 2-hour textbook reserve, one student uses it, they turn it in after an hour. We're working on getting a machine that will make this quicker, but currently we'd have to like quarantine the book for 3 days, which means for 3 days, no other student's gonna have access to it. So that's like a big limiter. So if there is an ebook version available, we really, especially this semester, are going to try to make that happen. So anytime you want an ebook for your class, you can send requests to your school liaison. So Susan, that's me. Clint, that's Patrick. Or you can really just send it to any of us, and we'll make sure that it gets to the right person for purchasing. And as I mentioned, let us know when you request whether or not, like if it's a research title for you specifically, then we might go for that one user license that's much less expensive than the unlimited access level, which we would want if it's something that a lot of students are going to be having their hands on. So let us know about that too. What else do I have here? Any other questions? Okay. There is.
I actually have a bit of a dilemma.
Mhm.
I'm trying to put together an assignment, and I'm really missing out on the old, and I know this is impossible right now, but the old rhythm and rhyme, just going to that place in the stacks
Mhm.
and picking out the adjacent books kind of exercise where I need to find play anthologies.
Okay.
So, and I just looked on the ebook sites and did not find much in the way of play anthologies, but I don't know, you might be able to guide me to something. But I might just have to check out several books, unfortunately, and like have you guys like do the shelf scan for me.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. If there are, I can send me specifics and I can look for some play anthologies as well.
Okay.
Drama Online might be a good place for you to look depending on what specific plays you're looking for, but that's a really great place for digital access to get ebooks. They
Okay.
look very different on that site, and mostly it's a lot of contemporary works. But that's like one area where we might have digital access and it might be an ebook, but it might look very different and it might be hard to search for. So I'm happy to help you look for those. Once we open up, we'll be able to, we have a new Kick scanner that we got luckily just in time in the spring semester right before all of that madness hit that we used to do a lot of scanning. And I think I've said this in previous webinars, but that will be totally open to you to grab physical materials in the library and make PDFs from them. It's not something that we can provide, but it will definitely be open to you. So if we only have physical anthologies in print, then that could be an option for making digital versions. And you could consider alternative ways. So when I was in grad school, my faculty always just gave us the full reading list at the beginning of the semester, and then told us that as a class, we should split up who has scanning duties for that week's reading. So it's sharing the burden a little bit, but still making sure that everyone has access to a digital version is another way that you could do it. But send me specifics and I can do some digging too and see what's available.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't mean to,
No,
take somebody else's time with this.
That is just fine. Let me go ahead and if there aren't any other questions, we do have recordings of the past webinars up now at this site, so you can just click this. This is in the slides. Next Monday will be Archives 101 with Kate, who's our university archivist. And also I encourage you, we're building out the schedule for continuing webinars in the coming weeks. If there are specific library topics that you think would be really useful for you in thinking about planning for your fall semester, let us know and we can arrange for webinars to cover that content as well. Stop sharing. And